Was I happy with some of the compromises we made? No. I can sit here, Kyler, and name you the things that I'm like, I'm unhappy about this. They didn't do this. And we didn't. But I was personally involved in the negotiation and agreed to those things that I'm still not happy about in the name of respecting my neighbors who have a different view. And I think that's good government. That's good democracy. Washington needs that because that's what will allow us to live in a better world. I think there is so much power in our coming together. There is so much power when like-minded people come to sit in the same room and say, how can we build together? And it's incumbent on us as elected officials to create opportunities to use our platform to make those things possible.
Welcome to the Community Center for Eryngo Urbanism, a show about bringing people together as neighbors to rise above conflicts and set a clear and strong vision for the future of our communities. I'm Kyler. I'll be your host for today. I'm an architect and design communicator based out of Oklahoma City. Today, I'm joined by a very special guest who will be helping us to answer the question, in what ways do local governments shape our communities, and how can we as members of the community best engage with that process of governance? Camal Pennington, welcome to the show. Could you start us out by telling us a bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure. Hi, Kyler. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'm Camal Pennington. I am honored to serve on the Oklahoma City Council representing Ward 7. Ward 7 is heaven, and I'm proud to be from Northeast OKC. So I have only been on the job for about 9 months, so I'm still learning a lot, but it's been a great experience so far.
That's awesome. So how did you originally kind of become interested in public service, and what was your background before you were on City Council?
So all the way going back to when I was in high school, I was always on the student council. So I always had some interest in doing something in service. And I was on the youth city council in Oklahoma City. I was the second class of that group of students. We spent a year learning about city government. I worked with our then city councilwoman, Willa Johnson, who is a legendary leader in Oklahoma City and especially in our community in Northeast Oklahoma City. And so I learned so much about city government, thought it was awesome, and just took that on to college where I was involved in student government, went on to law school. And then my first job out of law school was working for Congress in Washington, D.C. So I spent some years doing on the federal side working, came back to Oklahoma City, worked for the American Federation of Teachers here in Oklahoma City, where I was working on state issues, obviously local education issues, then went to work for the University of Oklahoma College of Law, where I was director of annual giving and director of admissions. Students having access to a quality education that they can afford is something that's I feel really strongly about. My current job is I serve as executive director of It's My Community initiative. And so we strengthen families all across Oklahoma City. And probably right before council, what really got me interested in serving was serving on the Oklahoma City Planning Commission. And I will admit, Kyler, that I didn't know anything about the Planning Commission. You've heard me say this before. I was asked to serve. I had to Google what Planning Commission was because I didn't know. And I'm so grateful that I was given that opportunity. I served for 6 years. I served 2 years as chairman, and it was a great experience learning about local government. So I knew probably 4 years in, I said, if I ever got the chance to serve on council, I would, because I love what we're doing on the Planning Commission.
Yeah. So for anybody listening, what exactly is the Planning Commission, and maybe give us some examples of some things that came through there and how they got resolved?
Yeah. So Planning Commission has several roles in Oklahoma City. First, we're responsible for the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan is a projection 20, 30 years out of how we think the city will develop. And so our job as a Planning Commission is to ensure that the zoning cases that we approve or don't approve are consistent with that comprehensive plan. And so we deal with primarily rezoning applications all across the city. We are responsible for subdivision regulations, so the way in which you develop any particular lot. And then we have some policy responsibilities. So recently, people have talked about Bike Walk OKC, for example, that plan approved by the Planning Commission. The City Council recently approved a 5-year capital improvement plan. That always goes before the Planning Commission before it comes to council. Short-term rental ordinances. I mean, I could go on and on. Council has a policy role and a zoning role, and it's really important to our city. To your question about cases that we've seen, I mean, it's a wide variety. My time on council, on Planning Commission included all the approvals for the Oak So from start to finish, which was it's a really cool development. And it was really awesome to be a part of that process. Right here in Northeast Oklahoma City, the Page Woodson development, a lot of that was approved during the time that I served on planning commission. And then you have more controversial things that have come to the table. So North America's largest tower, potentially being in Bricktown, we had to approve of whether or not we'd allow them to change the height limitations that exist in Bricktown to accommodate the construction of that building to the special permit that was requested for the county jail. So it's a wide variety of things that I've been able to see on planning commission. It's a great experience.
So I'd also like to hear more about It's My Community initiative. What kind of things are you guys doing there, and how have you seen that work impact the community?
Well, first, I think it's important to start with our why. And we exist to strengthen families in our community because we believe no matter where you live, no matter how much money you make, you should be able to thrive with your family. And that is the only way that the American dream is really possible in our city. And so all of our programs are centering around strengthening families. So from a parenting perspective, we have our True Dads program working with dads and a co-parent on how to be better parents, partners, and providers. We have youth programming that is after school programming for high school students at Douglas, John Marshall, and Star Spencer high schools, where we're working on leadership skills, workforce development, healthy relationships, helping people in that vulnerable moment of transition, which I know you've experienced and I have too, of when you leave high school, how do you become a real adult? We have a new program working with justice involved young people and helping them get connected to paid work experiences. So many times, justice involvement prevents you from opportunities to get a meaningful career. And so we're trying to change that. And so through federal funding, we are working to pair those students with mentors and get them connected with employer partners. So any of your listeners who are interested in helping some of our students have job opportunities, please let me know because we want to expand the variety of opportunities that they get. We also have a unique program called Safe Families that takes families who are in crisis and surrounds them with a circle of support. That includes a host family to help take on temporary guardianship of a child that is revocable at any time. And we support the parents with whatever the crisis or instability may be. So think about a family that's facing homelessness. Single dads can't take their children into the homeless shelter. Where will their children go? Well, with Safe Families, they have an option of a host family that can help them. Single moms who are giving birth. What if you don't have a safe place for your child to go, safe family that you're connected to? Our program, Safe Families, provides an opportunity for you to go there. Then there's families who are experiencing crisis that may have had at some point state intervention. We don't want kids going into our foster care system. We want them going to the safe, loving home and a safe, loving community. And that's what we do with our Safe Families program. And so it's state funded, but we have expanded statewide and we're really excited about the work that we're doing there to try to help people build community.
I think a lot of people don't necessarily understand the mechanisms of local decision making and how these things happen. I think people, for the most part, understand that there is a city council, but what is the purpose of city council and how does it kind of work? And then how has your experience been so far as well?
Well, so city government it's interesting because it depends in Oklahoma, it depends on every city has a different rules. So we have a city manager form of government in Oklahoma City. So the council's job is to oversee the work of the city manager and enact policies for the city manager to follow. So we have a largely oversight role, and the day-to-day operations are done by the city manager. So I know it frustrates a lot of our constituents sometimes when they call us and say, make this department do this. And it's like, well, we technically by charter are not allowed to tell city staff what to do, except for the city manager. That is the only person who reports to us. So directly when it comes to most city operations, of course, we have a city auditor that reports to us and a municipal councilor, but everything else goes through the city manager. So I think that's really important to remember in that form of government. But Tulsa, by contrast, has a strong mayor. So, their mayor has authority to run the bureaucracy of the city of Tulsa. And so it's very different here. I think that's been part of the secret sauce, honestly, for us to be a city that's been on the rise because we've had so much consistency in the leadership. And in my time of being on the city council, I've really enjoyed getting to know our council members, getting to know our city government. We live in a really well-run city. and for all of the frustrations that I know I ran for office, with all the dreams of things that need to change. And there are plenty of things that need to change, of course. But it's been amazing to see and to learn about all of the great work that our city staff does that makes this a really great place to live.
Yeah. So you mentioned that there are things that need to be improved still in the city. What are some of the major things? It may be through your nonprofit work or through planning commission or council, but like what are some of the consistent issues that you see and how do you think we should go about solving some of those?
Well, I have really strong feelings about the way that our city needs to encourage the creation of more housing, creating opportunities for more housing affordability, creating opportunities for us to address the eviction crisis that's happening right here in our own city. I think Planning Commission helped me have a front row seat to how difficult it can be to educate communities about the importance of bringing in a variety of housing types, of bringing in additional housing, because we really do. We're short. I think the last estimate I heard was around 45. Maybe I think it's 45,000 units
That sounds
is
right.
needed,
Yeah.
um, which is huge. I mean, it's a big burden. But our existing homeowners also have challenges that our city needs to continue to address. Think about our elderly population or low income populations having more opportunities for money for repair and maintenance of their properties, which I think is something we've continued to pursue federal funding for and try to prioritize. And let's also look at homelessness. We want to find more ways for people to have shelter and have a quality place to live. And so we have more work to do as a city to continue to address those challenges.
So, something I've heard you talk about, or at least briefly mention, is the idea of a community land trust and how that could help support Northeast OKC. What exactly is that, and how has that worked in maybe some other places?
Yeah. So a community land trust is a public entity that can take on ownership of property. And our thinking in Northeast Oklahoma City, at least in that land trust context, is that we would try to redevelop in a way that maintains affordability, that encourages economic development across incomes. And so we want to see our community grow and be stronger. I think just getting a little history for Oklahoma City, we have been segregated from the very beginning. One of the first laws passed by the state legislature when became a state was enacting segregation. And so my community, historically Black community here in Oklahoma City, we were limited to a certain area to function in. And because of that, across incomes, we existed in one space. So the idea of having mixed uses, the idea of having mansions with a accessory dwelling unit in the back, those were all commonplace in our community. And so as time has gone on, we've gotten away from some of those principles that allowed people to thrive. Even though we can go everywhere, which I'm grateful for, we should take some of the things we've learned from that thriving moment in our community and say, hey, we can actually take some of those same principles and live well now. And so the thinking behind community land trust is if we can take properties that people don't want anymore, maybe your grandmother has passed and doesn't know what they want to do with their property, we can take that into the community land trust and know that we can use it for a community purpose that can help us really develop a community where all people of all incomes can thrive. Oh, you asked me also about examples. So in Atlanta, they have the West Side Future Fund. And in a area very similar to Northeast Oklahoma City in Atlanta, the West Side Future Fund is doing development to create housing. So they're creating housing both for rent and for sale with strategies for affordability, like putting caps on equity, for example, so that you can build your equity and then move on to another house. But it allows us to be able to bring in another low income person who might want to become a homeowner. And they also have a revolving loan fund that gives low and no interest loans to developers who want to come in and build consistent with this plan, again, of trying to make it so that people across income spectrums can thrive. So I think it's working well in Atlanta. I think we do well in Oklahoma City to take that lesson.
Yeah, for sure. I'm curious, like how the community land trust thing would work. Would that be run by a nonprofit? Would that be run through the city? Would that be run and maybe you don't know the answer to this, but that was just a question that had dawned on me just
Well, the
now.
city does have interest in having a community land trust of its own. I'm skeptical of that choice for the city to do that, but it's probably just because of my own knowledge of the history of urban renewal in my community in Northeast Oklahoma City. So I'm automatically skeptical of that. In my ideal situation for a community land trust, it would be a nonprofit that's sole purpose is to be the land trust, where we would build a charter or bylaws for that land trust that would require some elected official representation, some deliberate community representation, some philanthropic representation, business representation. In order for you to have long-term success, you've got to have all of those perspectives. And so I envision something that looks like that.
Okay, interesting. What are some of the best avenues for people to get involved with and stay engaged with the local decision-making process, at least in OKC?
So one, all of our meetings are televised through YouTube. So just going to YouTube and searching the city of Oklahoma City, you will see all of our meetings available live and past meetings. So I think that's really useful. Our city website is actually pretty effective at letting you follow what agenda items are there for all of and we have a lot of them, boards and commissions. And so if you just go to okc.gov, I would encourage you to go check and see, like, look at the agendas and see what's happening. I'm pretty sure I speak for all the council members when I say this. We check our emails pretty aggressively following what constituents are telling us. We try to make ourselves available at neighborhood meetings and phone calls and all of those things, which I think are just so important to be accessible. It makes a difference when a constituent emails me about a specific situation or specific challenge that they're experiencing. And that has been really fascinating to just see some of the things that people are concerned about, whether it be things like low hanging lines from AT&T that were disrupting the ability of someone to be able to fully utilize their backyard. And they called the city for us to be able to do something about it, to we need no dumping signs at this intersection. Camal, can you do something about that? I got a call for sidewalks nearby a school in our communities. I mean, it's always something, but all of us are really attentive to that because you'd be surprised. We don't get as much outreach as you would think. As told you, I used to work for Congress, and one of my jobs at one point was serving as legislative correspondent. So responding to 700,000 constituents, we got a lot of mail to Congress. I mean, it was a constant flood. And here, oh, maybe I get 10, 20 emails from constituents in a week. That's a specific individual person asking me a specific question. It's not as many people who do as you would think, and we want to hear from you, so you should do it. Ward 7 has a newsletter that I send out once a month. And so if you go to Pennington, OKC Ward7.com, you can go sign up for the Ward 7 newsletter. We try to put in a lot of good information. My friend Kirsten does all the real work of helping put together all the information, and so I'm grateful to her.
What would you say are some of the upcoming things that are going to be going before City Council that you're most excited about or interested in or looking forward to, or I suppose not?
I will tell you on the positive side, I'm really excited about the 2025 GO bond and what we did last fall. The voters once again, and by overwhelming margins, approved $3.2 billion being invested in our infrastructure, from streets to sidewalks to parks to $50 million for affordable housing, which is amazing. Economic development. It really is going to be transformative. So I'm looking forward to seeing those projects come alive. And so we'll be approving reports for some of those projects to start throughout the coming 10 years that the bond will last. And so I'm excited about that. I'm really excited about the 2028 Olympics. We're hosting canoe slalom and softball, and both of those events are occurring in Ward 7. So I'm really excited that we're going to be having that. And so getting to watch that unfold and the opportunities to really support this community as we host the Olympics is going to be something I'm really excited about. Obviously, the new arena is also in Ward 7. So the fact that I think it's an aggressive timeline, but I'm really hopeful that it's finished in 2028 before the Olympics start. So we're really excited about those opportunities. I guess I'm going from really good to like medium to to sort of a little negative. I know there's been a lot of discussion about bike lanes in our city, and so a few weeks ago, the city passed a resolution that stopped the closing of any car lanes on Classen Boulevard between Sheridan and 10th Street from being constructed for the purpose of a bike lane. And so I've been disappointed by some of the information that's been out on social media saying we banned all bike lanes, saying we banned bike lanes on Classen. I don't know if you've driven on Classen. Their bike lanes are still there. They're not going anywhere. But I also understand all the people who were frustrated by our decision to say that we're not going to close those car lanes for more bike lanes. What we have done is we have agreed to construct a bike trail that'll run alongside the street between 6th Street and 10th Street. And we are evaluating and we're waiting on a report that we're going to get from the city manager after some community meetings with the biking community. We're going to make some improvements to the crossings across Classen. And I know some of your listeners, I'm sure, will mention that we've had deaths and injuries along Classen from people who are cyclists. And it's terrible that that's happened. But I think it's worth noting that the death occurred from crossing Classen. So we really need to put a greater emphasis on improving those crossings, improving the safety of those crossings, and improving the overall network of bike lanes throughout our city. So there's going to be an effort to improve the dedicated bike lanes on Sheridan Avenue, on Chartel Avenue, which run alongside Classen. And we're going to continue to evaluate effective design that can allow us to better have protected bike lanes on Classen in that corridor. So the battle is not over. We're going to continue to fight. I am a strong advocate for us having multimodal transportation across our city and for it to be safe for everyone. So we're going to continue to make that investment. So for those who are disappointed by the council's actions, I'd just say it's not over yet. More work is going to come, and there will be more bike lanes on Classen, not fewer.
So what I've heard is that the rule is that you cannot remove a car lane to add bike lanes, and that the plan now is to add a bike trail. Can a car lane be removed just because there's too many car lanes?
Theoretically, yes.
Okay.
You found the loophole in the resolution. Honestly, Tyler, honest solution, honest way that I think we could move forward is if we're determined to remove some car lanes, bring us a design that does it in an effective way and addresses the real traffic concerns that people have. And I know that I do believe that the future that we're creating is one where people will be less dependent on cars. Like, I believe in that vision. I would love to be a one-car household because the public transportation system is so good that you can just use it and you don't need it. But we're not there yet. But I think we can get there one step at a time. So bring me some good designs. Maybe you've heard my frustrations in Ward 7. Go drive down Lottie Avenue between 23rd Street and 13th Street and tell me that you are satisfied with the way that the road diet occurred. There are ways to design things better so that it both respects the need for traffic and respects the need for bike lanes to be safe. And so I just want to see more creativity and a higher standard that the planning department will hold itself to when it comes to thoroughfares that are this important. I have neighbors who complain to me about 13th Street between Broadway and Lincoln with the protected bike lanes. Because of the eliminated line of traffic, when the train is there, you cannot travel east and west, and it is very painful. And it was easier when you had 2 car lanes, unfortunately. So it's tough. It's tough. I know we've got to continue. But one way that you can help, Kyler, I think, is by helping us talk to more of our constituents about what alternatives look like. The more we can educate them about multimodal transportation and how the more we implement those strategies, the better city we'll live in. It's the same kind of education process that I try to do with housing and the importance of different housing types. A lot of neighbors don't like it, but I'm living in a nearly 100-year-old house in one of the oldest neighborhoods in Oklahoma City, and I live across the street from apartments, duplexes, and I am safe. And so I think it's just like you can have those people who believe that there's all these parade of horribles that will happen because you live near an apartment complex or a duplex, and people believe the same thing when you close a car lane. We've got to prove them wrong by showing effective design and how it can work really well.
Yeah. And I do think there's something to be said for setting a higher bar for what is bike infrastructure, because I think as somebody who enjoys riding my bike, but I don't necessarily consider myself a cyclist, I don't really feel comfortable driving in the street. And I barely feel comfortable driving or riding my bike when there's just paint or like those little stupid plastic bollard things. So
I was hoping they were going. So when they did bike walk and we're going through, the briefings about that, in my head, and I guess I should have asked the question explicitly, I thought it meant all of them got curves to go alongside them where we were doing like the dedicated lane. I guess I knew it wouldn't be all of them, but in places, that we've named, I thought at least that, because I'm with you. I would not feel safe on Classen just because it's not protected enough for me. That a car could just accidentally veer over, they're changing the radio station and, you clip me. I'm going to be upset about that when you're going 45 miles an hour. So I think we still have some more work to do to improve design.
Yeah. As much as I'd love to, be like, no, like paint all of the bike lanes right now, it's still not that much better than if we actually do it the right way. So,
And we still have to educate people too, Kyler, about how to be on the road with bikes. That's a huge issue. So Vision Zero, another plan that our planning department's done an excellent job on, trying to eliminate fatalities between cyclists and vehicles and pedestrians and vehicles. And increasing visibility and lighting and all of these other strategies are really important to us to try to eliminate those injuries and fatalities. And so the better educated the voters, the drivers are, the better we'll have better outcomes for cyclists.
hey, this is Editor Kyler jumping in here because I think this next portion requires a little bit of additional explanation. According to OKC.gov, on December 23rd, 2025, a letter addressed to the Oklahoma City Planning Department was received from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. The letter stated the department's intention to purchase and occupy a warehouse at 2800 South Council Road to establish a new Oklahoma City processing center for use by U.S. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, or ICE. Elements of the project mentioned in the letter included a guard shack, fencing, cafeterias, holding and processing spaces, and healthcare spaces. This interview was recorded on January 23rd, 2026, at a time when there was still some uncertainty about how all of this would shake out. On January 29th, Mayor David Holt posted on social media that the owners of the property at 2800 South Council confirmed to him that they are no longer engaged with the Department of Homeland Security about a potential acquisition or lease of the property. So with all of that in mind, let's get back to the interview.
I'll also note, again, going from positive to not as positive, we're very concerned about the ICE detention center that could be built on South Council Road. And I want to clarify, I've received some messages and seen some things on social media about the fact that why doesn't the city of Oklahoma City take action to ban something like this, like Kansas City has done or Durant has done? So I want to clarify a few things about that. One, the city already has a process that would prevent any non-municipal construction of a detention center without a special permit. And so the law existing requires you'd come to the council. First it would go to planning commission for approval and a recommendation. Then it would come to the city council for final action. So that's what we would expect any entity to do. You'll recall that we went through a very similar process when the county wanted to relocate the county jail in another part of Ward 4. So when that happened, you'll recall the city council said no. And you'll also recall that the justice system in the state of Oklahoma made the decision that because the county is a higher form of government, the supremacy clause applies to the county. They had the right to build in spite of the fact that they did not have city approval. Well, the exact same thing would occur for the federal government. If they decided to build without our permission, they would have the authority to do so because of the supremacy clause. So we can pass more laws. We already have existing laws that the federal government at this point is not showing any indication that they intend to follow. I know our mayor has sent a letter to our congressional delegation encouraging them, hey, tell DHS to ask for permission from the city and follow the same process that anyone else should. And so I'm hopeful that they will encourage the White House to make that decision. But at this point, the city has existing laws, and we've already encouraged the Department of Homeland Security to follow those laws. And so let's hope that they do. I'm doubtful, but to the people who say we haven't done enough, all I can say is we already ban it without our permission explicitly.
Yeah, it's been kind of interesting seeing a federal government that's so blasé with the law and with all of these, regulations that we have that under any normal circumstances would be followed. Yeah.
It's frustrating.
Yeah.
And I think another thing that's frustrating is just acknowledging that we have limitations and no one wants to hear it. Everyone wants to get an answer that's satisfactory. And I wish we could give them one. The way that ICE has treated the people in their custody, the children they have taken into their custody, the way that they have treated protesters who are allowed to peacefully gather on public property has been sad, to say the least. So I hope that our federal government, our federal delegation will stand up and fight for the people of Oklahoma City and say, we don't want the mistreatment of anyone in our community.
That's good. Yeah. When it comes to affordable housing, I know you said that's important to you. What are some of the initiatives that are coming up that will have an impact on that here in OKC?
So, number one, we have affordable housing dollars, as I mentioned, from the GOLT bond, $50 million. And so a housing advisory group has been put together. A housing implementation strategy manager has been hired for the planning department. So we've got eyes on trying to figure out how we can use that money in a way that's effective, use our federal grants in a way that's effective at creating more housing and making it more accessible and affordable for more people. And so I'm excited to see that we're making those efforts. I think our zoning code needs to be updated. And so a lot of work's gone in for the last few years into updating that code. And so we're looking forward to it implementing some strategies that can make it easier for us to develop in a way that's appropriately fits the character of neighborhoods and allows for more density. Again, I live in Lincoln Terrace. I'm going to show you some duplexes that you would not guess are duplexes because you'd think they were single family homes. Why wouldn't that be allowed in other places throughout our city? And so that just it helps us live in a more thriving community that way. I believe that when you cross incomes and allow people, I've got in my neighborhood, my 92-year-old grandma lives down the street in a duplex. My parents live around the corner in the house I grew up in. And when they get ready, they're going to move into a duplex in the neighborhood so they can live close. I mean, that is aging in place. People fought us hard on the accessory dwelling unit ordinance that I had a big role in helping to get the council and the commission to pass. But that's another strategy that allows for people to have affordable housing, age in place, allow young adults to have affordable places to live. I mean, it's so many benefits when we think more comprehensively about strategies for letting people across all incomes be in similar places that are respectful of character.
Yeah, I think it's been interesting watching the zoning code update a little bit and seeing how the ADU ordinance kind of had a lot of pushback on it that was maybe not expected. How do you think we have a NIMBY problem here here in OKC at all?
I don't think we're any different than anywhere else in America when it comes to that. I think people are scared and change is also scary. And so it's our job to help educate people about the benefits and and for us as policymakers to be honest about some of the detriments. And so that's tough. I think the reason why we live in a great city is because we have a willingness to engage in those meaningful conversations. Was everybody happy with the ADU ordinance? No. Was I happy with some of the compromises we made? No. I can sit here, Kyler, and name you the things that I'm like, I'm unhappy about this. They didn't do this. And we didn't. But I was personally involved in the negotiation and agreed to those things that I'm still not happy about in the name of respecting my neighbors who have a different view. And I think that's good government. That's good democracy. Washington needs that because that's what will allow us to live in a better world.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting seeing how all these things play out locally and like how at a local scale it actually feels like you can have an impact versus like at a national scale sometimes it feels kind of helpless, you know? I don't know if you have that same feeling having
You
worked in
know, I
Congress.
think because I've been there, I know how much they really are taking into account the things that their constituents are saying. I'll veer a little bit far into the political realm and say I think the lack of independent districting is harmful to our country. Voters should pick the politicians. The politicians shouldn't pick themselves. So, state question 836 is coming, which will put all people who are running for office on the same ballot and let the public decide, regardless of party, who they're for. We elect our city council and our mayor that way, and look at how much better run the city of Oklahoma City is compared to our federal government. And so I think those changes are needed to make the federal government even as accountable as they should be. But they're paying attention to what their constituents are saying. They're not doing anything they don't think they can get away with from the voters. But maybe that's a little bit of my idealism about our democracy.
Yeah, if I have a representative here in Oklahoma who in Congress does not seemingly represent my interests at all, and I send them an email and I just get kind of like a copy paste whatever they send, like it doesn't feel like they've listened. Maybe they have, but I don't know.
I think they're keeping track. Let's think about some of the bills that have gone down in flames over the years, because enough people called and got upset. Look at some of the immigration reforms that have been fought for in the past. It hasn't happened because people kept calling. People kept writing. People kept coming up to those offices and saying, we don't want these changes. And I think, again, in a district that's drawn neutrally, not to favor any one party, would see that most sentiments want reform. They just want it to be a reasonable reform. And again, I think if you put everybody on the same ballot, you'd elect people who felt like they were more accountable to you and me, even if the person who's serving in the federal office isn't the same party as either one of us. I still deserve representation, even if you're not the same party as me.
So I got to sign the petition for the open primaries.
Yes. So definitely Google State Question 836 and you'll see all the locations. But it's very important to sign the petition before, I think, the 27th. So yeah,
Okay, well, I think this is going to go up after that.
But it's still really important. Hopefully it's going to be on the ballot. So if you include any part of this, hopefully it's going to be on the ballot.
Okay. What else would you be interested in talking about here?
Yeah, I think a couple of things. I think it's important for us to, as a community, really be thinking about ways that we can work together and create institutions that can really have an impact. For me, as city councilman, it is not just my job to sit on that horseshoe and pass ordinances and approve expenses for the city. It is a platform for us to be able to have an impact. And so some of the ways that we are doing that in Northeast Oklahoma City is by, we had a meeting with all of the nonprofits who are having out of school and after school programming and said, hey, what if we all figured out a way as Northeast Oklahoma? We're serving a lot of the same kids. We're serving a lot of the same families. What if we all came together and figured out how we can do it together? And so I put together a committee of people that came together and we hosted a reception and got folks to sign up and say, yes, we want to commit to how we can offer better complementary services, how we can ensure that every kid gets access to quality after school programs that help them become their best selves, and how we can better share our resources so that we're being more efficient to our philanthropic partners, to our governmental partners. And so all of that good work is happening because of me turning to friends of mine and saying, what if we did something cool like this? And them saying, yeah, let's go use this platform. People will pay attention if you're posting about it. So let's just get organized and do it. And we're going to have a similar effort for Northeast Oklahoma City for the Olympics. Team OKC is going to run fantastic events for the city of Oklahoma City and the venues. But in order for our community to feel communicated with, in order for our community to organize our own events and to find ways for tourists to learn about our history and our culture, we should facilitate that. And so we're organizing committees to help us do that. I think there is so much power in our coming together. There is so much power when like-minded people come to sit in the same room and say, how can we build together? And it's incumbent on us as elected officials to create opportunities to use our platform to make those things possible. We've gotten away from a belief in institutions over the last decade, and I think that's a shame. Our institutions are just an opportunity for us to do collective work. That's it. People who criticize the government, I'm like, the government is us. You're criticizing us. It's our decision what they do. And so it's important for us to take our power back in creating institutions in government that works. And so I'm going to fight every day until that happens, to empower people, to recognize our own power, to make a difference in our own communities. And when we start thinking like that, instead of playing the blame game on who's not doing what I think is right, the finger pointing needs to stop. The reflecting in the mirror needs to begin in all of us to live in the world we want to see. So I'm going to keep fighting for it. And I think our council, I really do think that our leadership, our mayor, we believe in that. That's why we get better outcomes in Oklahoma City.
Yeah, I think that's really well said. How might people follow along with some of the work you're doing in Northeast OKC outside of City Council?
So social media is great. You can follow me on Instagram and Facebook. We do post regularly about the things that we're doing, and the newsletter. I try to send updates regularly that way. And then I get to come on cool podcasts like this one and talk to people. And so hopefully more people, your followers will see this and take some interest in coming to help us build a stronger communities all across Oklahoma City.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you so much.
Hey, it's me, Kyler. If you enjoyed this conversation, please be sure to give the show a like, rating, subscription, or whatever kind of nice feedback you can provide on whatever platform you're watching or listening from. If you'd like to join our community to stay up to date or to discuss anything you heard in today's show, consider joining the Eryngo Urbanism Discord server. And finally, if you'd like to support the work of Eryngo Urbanism directly, you can do so over on Patreon. Until next time.